Right, here we are again, everyone. We're back for part 2 of our viewers' questions and answers. 2 or 3 days have gone by. I've not changed my shirt. You can probably understand why that is. The real me is currently sunning himself, enjoying his time off, and not having to think about Celtic for a wee while. But I'm thinking about Celtic right now, and so should you be, because we've got loads more questions from you guys and girls sent in. If you've not checked out the first video, go and give that a watch before this. Some of the stuff may make more sense. If not, just fire on with this. Oh, I should say before I get on with this, please remember to subscribe. Just because I'm not on holiday doesn't mean that you guys and girls can get away with not subscribing. No, in all honesty, we really appreciate all the support we're getting. We're aiming for 10,000 subs by the end of January. How are we doing? I don't know at this stage, but you can really help me out by clicking that subscribe button. Just go down to the bottom right-hand corner of the screen and do it. That would be greatly appreciated. Right, question 1. Shaun Maloney for manager. Played for and worked under Roberto Martinez. He must have picked up on a lot of good methods. Right, bring in Ewan. What's your thoughts, Ewan?
So, in response to Anthony Scavoni's question, should Shaun Maloney be a future Celtic head coach or manager? Yes, I would absolutely argue that he should. I've written an article about this actually, suggesting that he might be a good replacement for Neil Lennon. I'm in two minds about that now. I think it might come a little too soon for him, but if you just look at what he's been doing the last few years, he worked with Tommy McIntyre with the Celtic reserves and youth teams. He has recently graduated from the Johan Cruyff Institute for managers, and obviously he's worked with Roberto Martinez at Belgium, working with some absolute world-class talents, Eden Hazard, Kevin De Bruyne, Romelu Lukaku. So he could definitely handle the big egos. Whether or not he's ready for his first stint as a manager, I'm not entirely sure yet, but I think in the future you definitely have to look at him. He's also obviously got Celtic man credentials. You know, he's worked with the coaching setup before, and given Celtic's history of appointing managers who have some kind of history with the club, then I think it's definitely one for the future, yeah.
Like you and I like the idea of Shaun Maloney being Celtic manager. The only thing that's going around my head is, would it be an ideal first job as a manager? Now, the negatives are that bringing in a rookie manager, you're going to have mistakes made by them. We saw that when Lennon first came in. We've seen it across the city with the mistakes Gerrard make. He's taken a long time to finally get things right for them. And I think the same would happen if we were to bring Maloney in. But you could argue that that outweighs the negatives of potentially missing out on him altogether. And the reason I say that is that if Maloney was to go to another job, now say it's down in a lower league in England or whatever, and he does well just straight off the bat in his first job, he could then become out of our range to get him in as manager. So it's all about whether to take that risk or not. I think he is a future Celtic manager though. The fact he's rated so highly by a top manager like Roberto Martinez and top players like Kevin De Bruyne and Romelu Lukaku, I think says a lot. So I'm a big fan of the Maloney to Celtic. In terms of our next manager, probably not, but would I be massively against it? It's exciting, I think. If we do get a new manager, will they be allowed to bring in their own staff? Lennon was definitely the wrong appointment, but he was hard done by the board in not getting to select his staff. I think this is an absolute must for our next appointment, Plixie Pox. And I just don't understand why Celtic didn't see the benefits of having Brendan Rodgers appoint his own staff and do the same for Neil Lennon. I've got so many questions about why they didn't do that. Neil Lennon had success in his first time at the club when he brought in his own staff. I know there was reservations about Alan Thompson and Gary Parker. But I thought it was interesting that Johan Mjällby didn't come back. I don't know quite the story was there, whether Mjällby didn't want to or whatever, but it just seems strange that Lennon came back with a different team. How many clubs around Europe have the same assistant manager go through 3 different regimes? John Kennedy, obviously, I'm talking about. Maybe there are other clubs out there. I don't know many though. I don't think it's a brilliant idea from Celtic. But more than anything else, more than just getting in his own man, I think it needs to be quality. I mean, Damien Duff wasn't Lennon's own man, and Damien Duff was excellent from what I hear. He was loved by the Celtic players. I don't think you can say the same for Gavin Strachan. I was watching James Maddison's interview, that really good interview he did on Sky Sports the other night, the Leicester player. He was talking about Jack Lyons, the former Celtic analyst that Brendan Rodgers took back down to Leicester. Now, I think we replaced Jack Lyons with Peter Houston. Now, nothing against Peter Houston, he's clearly got a good history in the game, but you just feel as if, you know, we're a wee bit outdated in our methods at the club, and I think that's been typified by, you know, the likes of Gavin Strachan coming in instead of Damien Duff and Neil Lennon coming in instead of Brendan Rodgers. That's something that's to change firmly at the club. We need to move with the times. Which youth players do you think deserve a chance, could still make it with a change in management? Let's give John his say in this one.
Yeah, the youth question is one we actually get asked about a lot on the channel, on the website and on the podcast. A lot of people are frustrated by the current situation, perhaps not as many young players coming through as they would like. I mean, you've got Callum McGregor, but he's 27 now. James Forrest is on 30. These aren't young players that have come through the academy anymore. Kieran Tierney is away. After that, it's really Mikey Johnston that you're looking at, and obviously he's had his injury problems, but there's question marks about whether he can do it consistently for us. In terms of anyone younger, obviously Stephen Welsh, I think, could still come onto a game if he's given the opportunities, but he's 20 now. He's only had a handful of appearances, so how much do the club rate him? In midfield, you've got Scott Robertson and Luke O'Connell, both of whom I like the look of and have good reports. Luke O'Connell, don't forget, you know, had half a season of experience at Bolton before he came to Celtic, but he had nothing since. I thought he looked pretty sharp in pre-season. Scott Robertson's just had a good spell at Gillingham, half a season on loan there. And Celtic obviously rate him, or they wouldn't have recalled him when we were in a pinch last week. Elsewhere, you've got a defender like Leo Connor, who could play as a fullback. He came from Manchester United. He's already made his first full Republic of Ireland cap. So he's obviously rated by the Irish team. He's at Tranmere Rovers at the moment. I think he could come back and make some sort of impact. But it's about giving the trust to these players. Do the club trust them? Do the club have a pathway? Do they have a plan? Do they have long-term development goals for all of these players? That's the question that needs to be asked. And hopefully, if a new management team comes in, you know, that's something that will certainly be high on the agenda, because I think that's what's crucial if we're going to take the next step and try and push on in Europe. It's about having a sustainable youth policy.
My question is, do the guys agree that during Peter Lawwell's tenure, the fans have been shortchanged, especially in relation to European progress and not building on momentum due to managerial appointments? I just find it totally remarkable that we didn't build from that position of strength when Brendan Rodgers left the club. Now, I know that's such a common thing for fans to say, but if you actually think about it, when we brought Brendan Rodgers in, yes, he was the highest paid Scottish football manager ever. I think he will still be, obviously. Yes, he brought in the likes of Dembele and Sinclair, who wouldn't have been in peanuts. They would have gone basically to be top earners at the club, other than Scott Brown. You know, Odsonne Edouard would be similar, but you get what you pay for. And we got what we paid for, especially in those first couple of years with Brendan Rodgers. He got us into the Champions League group stage twice. What's that, 50 million probably? He sold out season tickets. You know, we added 10, 15,000 onto the season tickets overnight when he signed, and he brought us unprecedented domestic success in Scotland. So we got what we paid for when we brought in quality. I don't understand why, when Rodgers left, and fair enough, Lennon came in for those first few months, took us to the treble. I don't understand why at that point, when Celtic were in a much better footing than they are now, both financially and reputation-wise, you know, we were an established European club, we'd been in the Champions League. I don't understand why the club didn't push the boat out and get another Brendan Rodgers. Brendan Rodgers is an exceptional coach, and we were really lucky to have him. And maybe we wouldn't have got the same level of manager, because, to be honest, there's few better than him in the country at the moment. But we could have still got a really, really good manager, a better manager than Neil Lennon, a guy who'd failed at Bolton, who'd been sacked after a bust-up at Hibs, you know, an untimely end at Easter Road. We could have done a lot better, and I guess now we're getting what we deserve. Well, not the fans, but the club. By the way, I want to just point out that Rodgers wasn't perfect either in Europe. I know that we had some of our worst European results ever there, but in general, the progression he brought us can't be overlooked. So, and actually I think it says a lot more about Peter Lawwell, the fact that Celtic have continually underperformed in Europe over the last decade, despite who the manager's been. Right, that's us for another question and answers video. Thanks again. We've got one more coming out early next week. I've kind of lost track of the days, to be honest. But remember, if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, that would be really appreciated. Let us know in the comments what you thought about some of my answers here, what you thought about the other guys, what they had to say as well. And yeah, we'll speak to you soon.